Dre all day.
What up, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. Here we are with the Western Conference. Let's do a recap of what's happening in the playoffs, talk about these playoff teams that have been eliminated, and then talk about the Western Conference Finals, which we now know we got the Denver Nuggets against the LA Clippers. So let's start at the first round, teams who were put out. First of all, the Portland Trailblazers. At least they got their chance. I mean, Damian Lillard was clear before the bubble situation that he only wanted to play if Portland would have a chance to make the playoffs. They did. They had a better team. They were healthier. They had Nurkic back. They had their big guy back, and that definitely helped them. They were able to earn their way into the playoffs, but then got eliminated in the first round. I thought they might have a chance against the Lakers because they had, I think, a deeper team. I think the Lakers, I still feel that the Lakers are a very top-heavy team, but then the rest of their players are, I don't know, kind of questionable. Then Avery Bradley didn't even join the Lakers to play in the bubble. So I thought Portland might have a chance in the first round. Turns out that they did not have a chance in the first round. They got stomped out pretty easily. Carmelo Anthony, he got a chance to redeem himself, get on the team. A lot of people were saying he at least deserved to be in the NBA because, I mean, Carmelo's thing is scoring. Carmelo Anthony is a scorer. He found the right team in Portland where he is not the main guy. He's not even the second guy. He's a complimentary third scorer. He's not asked to do more than he's capable of doing. Carmelo is still a overall net negative on defense, but on certain teams like the Portland team, I guess he could get away with that. So I guess Carmelo will get another year, maybe two, of Carmelo in the NBA, and then it'll be time for him to move on because, again, Carmelo's a scorer. That's the value that he brings to the table. He's not a great passer. He's not a great defender. He's not a plus defender. So he's going to score points. That's the reason that he's on a roster. He's good enough to do that. So good for him. Dallas Mavericks, who lost in the first round, they faced the worst possible matchup, having to go up against the Clippers as the worst matchup for them. I think they could have won in the first round had they played against another team. Maybe had they played Denver or Utah, I think they could have beat either one of them in the first round. Maybe even Houston in the first round they could have beat, but the Clippers was a bad matchup for them. But they still gave a fight. I mean, Luka Doncic is maybe one of the top 5 players in the NBA right now, especially going into next season. He's a beast. Porzingis is a great player. I don't think he's the right complement to Luka. I think they need somebody who's more of a just pick and roll, dive to the basket, or a great spot up shooter. And that's not exactly what Porzingis' game is. And Porzingis keeps getting damn injured. He's a guy that I don't even know you can trade. I don't know that Dallas could even trade him if they wanted to because he gets injured so much that his value goes down. So hopefully Porzingis can put together an entire season without getting injured. And let's see how he and Luka do together. But Luka is definitely the man there. He's going to be probably an all-star starter, I think, moving into the future in the Western Conference. Even though all those guards in the West, I think it's going to be him and Steph Curry every year for many years moving forward. But maybe it'll be somebody else. We'll see. But Luka is definitely the man. Who else lost in the first round? The Utah Jazz were they up 3-1 or 3-2? It was either 3-1 or 3-2 against Denver. Blew that. And I thought that Utah Jazz team, the reason that they lost is because they lost Bogdanovich. I keep getting it mixed up if it was Bogdan or Bojan, which one of them it was on the team. But whichever one of them it was, I know I had him on my fantasy team. He's averaging like 19 points a game. You lose somebody who's starting, averaging 19 a game in his prime, and you don't have that, you got to replace him with a lesser player in your rotation, especially in the playoffs when the rotations get shorter. That was the death knell for Utah. So Donovan Mitchell did what he could. Rudy Gobert did what he could, but they just didn't have enough overall to get over the hump, especially since they were without one of their main players, Bogdanovich. So I thought they should have won the first round. I mean, they had 3 wins. All they had to do was finish off. They lost twice in a row when they could have finished that series off. And they're saying there are rumblings that there's some kind of maybe not so much in syncness between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. And it seems that Rudy Gobert has a little bit of Dwight Howard disease. Dwight Howard disease, for y'all don't know what that is, that's when a center becomes really good and very prominent because of his defensive prowess, but he starts chirping about he wants to get the ball more, he wants more touches, he wants to score more points. We call that Dwight Howard disease. Won a couple Defensive Player of the Year awards, great rebounder, great at protecting the rim, but starts seeing how many points somebody else is scoring. They want to score points. They want the ball. They want touches, even though they're not even that good at it. This is the exact thing that happened to Dwight Howard. You see where he's at now. Hopefully this does not happen to Rudy Gobert. I think Utah is a great place for him, but if he ends up moving on because for whatever reason he can't coexist with Donovan Mitchell, because Utah's not getting rid of Donovan Mitchell. They'll get rid of Rudy before they get rid of Donovan. So hopefully Rudy does not have Dwight Howard disease. They were saying that he might have some symptoms. Hopefully that's not the case. Rudy, stay where you are. Play defense, block some shots, and be happy. Scoring, whatever you average this year. All right, you're not going to be Shaq. Anyway, the OKC Thunder got to a Game 7 against Houston, and I thought they might have a chance to win that series. Weren't able to pull it out, but they fought. Dort, the rookie, showed that he's a great defender. Schroeder was not even 100% healthy in the playoffs. I think if he was, they could have beat Houston in the first round. It would have been cool to watch them go against the Lakers, but they would have lost to the Lakers. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, great player. I think Chris Paul is going to need to get out the way for him to really blossom and become who he truly is going to be as a player. And Chris Paul is owed a lot of money, so I think he might get traded after this year. It's supposed to be a transition year for OKC anyway, and they did great. I mean, made the playoffs, went to a 7th game. Chris Paul showed that he's still one of the best of all time, even though he hasn't had the great playoff success. But he led that team. He was the leader of that team, and they were better than I think many of us thought they would be this upcoming season. And he stayed the whole season, which a lot of us didn't think. Teams got eliminated in the second round, the Houston Rockets. Now, Houston, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, they have gone all in on this James Harden thing. He's been there for many years now. Obviously, one of the greatest scorers, one of the best scorers in the game now, one of the greatest of all time. He's going to get his points. He's going to take you one-on-one, dribble between his legs, get his free throws, draw fouls, make his step-back threes. I mean, we all see that. It's not that fun to watch, I have to admit, but it is part of the game. That is nothing illegal that James Harden is doing. As long as that step back is legal, that's not a travel, that's okay now. So if you can do it and it's working, then if I was James Harden, I'd keep doing it too. However, I don't see Houston getting over the hump at the stage that they're at now if they keep playing the same way. All right, they've been using that style for years now. James Harden doing his one-on-one thing. They had their best chance a couple years ago when they had Chris Paul and they had Golden State on the ropes. They were up 3-2. Chris Paul got injured in Game 5 when they went up 3-2. He missed Game 6 in Golden State. That was James Harden's chance right there to say, hey, I'm the man here. We don't have Chris Paul, our second best player, but we still going to win. And he could have, and on the road too, against Golden State with that Kevin Durant team, and he wasn't able to get it done. Then it went back to a Game 7 in Houston, again, at their home gym. They had Chris Paul back. They weren't able to get it done. They blew it. That was their opportunity. They blew it. They could have beat a team that everybody was saying this is one of the greatest teams of all time, that Kevin Durant Golden State Warriors team. Houston blew that. James Harden was there. He was healthy the whole time. They blew it. Now they have continued to run it back. Obviously, Russell Westbrook is not a better compliment than Chris Paul, in my opinion. Chris Paul is a better compliment to James Harden. It's not even necessarily Chris Paul is better than Russell Westbrook. And if I really had to think about it, I actually think Chris Paul is better than Russell Westbrook. If I was a player, I had to pick a teammate, I'd rather play with Chris Paul than Russell Westbrook. As far as Russell goes, since we're on the subject, I think Russ, he puts a little bit too much emphasis on his individual stuff as compared to the team stuff. I think Russell sees them as about equal. And I don't think he thinks more of himself than the team, but I think he thinks about equally about himself as he does the team. I don't like playing with players like that because they are thinking more about their stats and what they can do one-on-one. And there was that funny clip when they were playing the Lakers in the last game of the series when Rondo was guarding him, and I think a foul got called, and Russell was just talking shit like, yeah, you better double, because Rondo can't guard him. But he was making it about him, and that's the thing. Like, I don't want to hear players do a little. Russell does a little bit too much of that for my liking, and it makes it seem like he's thinking more about showing off and what he can do than what's happening with the team. Just like last year when they got eliminated by Portland, he was talking shit to Damian Lillard. They both played the same position, and Damian outplayed him in that playoff series. There's no excuses, nothing you can say about that. And when the series was over, Russell was talking about, well, no other guard in the league could do the things that I do, and basically talking about himself. And that just didn't sit right with me. Again, Russell rings to me as a player who puts on equal balance on what he does and what the team does. And again, I don't like those type of players. I guess him and James Harden are cool. Russell's still a great player. Russell can still get you close to a triple-double, even when he's on a team with James Harden. I do think Russell counts stats. He's over 30 now. I just don't. Russell Westbrook is just not my cup of tea overall as far as his playing style. And I think Chris Paul is a much better fit with Houston because Chris Paul can shoot. Russell Westbrook cannot shoot. He is the worst outside shooter in the history of the NBA with a minimum number of attempts. That's a statistical fact. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. He is He is the worst jump shooter in the history of basketball. And they put him on a team with a guy who dominates the ball and likes to have spot-up shooters around him who can finish off his dribbling moves. So why they got Russell Westbrook? And on top of that, Houston traded, I think, 4 or 5 first-round picks with Chris Paul in order to get Russell Westbrook. Now, even if you think Russ is better than Chris Paul, he's not that much better than Chris Paul. And they both making a ton of money, so it's not a money thing. They both, I think Chris Paul's a little bit older, so it's not necessarily an age thing. Actually, he might be several years older, but he ain't that much better than Chris Paul. That was not a good move for Houston, and now they're stuck with it because Russell's owed like $40 million the next like 3 years, and he ain't opting out of that. No smart human being is opting out of $40 million. I don't care what the job is. So Houston's going to have to figure that out. Mike D'Antoni's already announced he's not coming back. Whoever comes to coach Houston, all right, James Harden got to give up this one-on-one ISO ball stuff. It doesn't work. It's not going to win them a championship. It will get James Harden plenty of stats, and he'll go to the Hall of Fame. He's already in the Hall of Fame. Russell's already in the Hall of Fame. And they're trying to win a championship. They need a different style. The style that they're doing right now is not going to beat the best teams in the West. All right, so that is a wrap for that, Houston, hopefully. But maybe they'll stick with it and keep doing the same thing, and they're going to get the same result. They're going to lose. The other team that lost in the second round, the LA Clippers. We didn't see this coming. Everybody wanted to see LA versus LA for the championship of the Western Conference. LeBron versus Kawhi. LeBron and AD versus Kawhi and quote-unquote playoff P. All right, so Paul George, first of all, let's go to him. All right, the playoff P thing is over. All right, we can't call you playoff P, Paul George. I don't know where the playoff P even came from, because when was Paul George dominant in the playoffs? I don't remember. Only time Paul George was good in the playoffs is when he was with the Pacers, when they had a solid team. Roy Hibbert, David West, George Hill, Danny Granger. They had a great overall team, and Paul George was probably the best young guy on that team. He was like the up and coming budding star, but it ain't like he was carrying them. They just had a great overall team. And anyway, they lost to the Miami Heat 2 years in a row. So it's not like they were out there dominating the East. They didn't go to the finals or nothing like that. So I don't know where the whole playoff P thing came from. I don't know if Paul George said that or somebody else said it, but there is no playoff P. All right, you actually got to do something in the playoffs to get a nickname. When he was on the Pacers, without all those other guys, and he was the main guy, they lost to Toronto in the first round in a Game 7 that they should have won. They lost that. Paul George had his chance, didn't do anything there. Went to OKC, and they lost the first year. Paul George didn't do much in that last game when Russell Westbrook was missing all those shots. They lost to Utah, and when Donovan Mitchell was a rookie, and they were targeting Carmelo Anthony on defense, by the way. And then the next year, they were playing against Portland. Now, Paul George was not 100% at that time, but he was guarding Damian Lillard when he got the game-winning shot hit in his face, and after the game, he said it was a bad shot. How is it a bad shot? Dude just hit a 37-footer in your face to end the series. Now, that's the best thing Paul George can come up with. So there is no playoff P. Then he just had 10 points in his last game. What was it, 4 rebounds, 2 assists in 38 minutes? Paul George didn't do shit. He did nothing in that game, absolutely nothing. And he was making jokes with Damian Lillard, like, yeah, you put me out last year, you going home this year. And they went and lost in the second round. Now, the Clippers were supposed to be a championship team. Paul George is all like, it's bigger than basketball. I want to go to home to LA, to California, play with my brother, quote unquote. Everybody's a brother now when they're your teammate. My brother, Kawhi Leonard, and all this. And they went and just blew it. They had a 3-1 lead, blew it, lost 3 games in a row. Who was guarding Jamal Murray? I would think a team like the Clippers, any type of wing, guard or wing who's great on offense, the Clippers is not a team you want to face because they got Pat Beverly, who's a dog on defense. You got Paul George, who's a great defender. Kawhi Leonard, who's a great defender. They could just envelope any great guard. So even Luka, he had great games against the Clippers. But had they been playing against somebody other than the Clippers, his 40 points would have been 50. If he didn't have Paul George and Kawhi and Pat Beverly guarding him. Those are great defenders. Who was guarding Jamal Murray in the series? This guy's scoring 40 points. They got 2 guys. Denver had 2 main guys on offense, Jokic and Jamal Murray. Everybody in the world who watches basketball knows those are the 2 main guys. Who was guarding Jamal Murray when he had 40 points in Game 7? Where was Paul George? Where was playoff P? Now, Paul George has done Paul George, and the reason I'm going on Paul George does his share of talking. Now, after they lost to, he was in OKC when they lost the first year to Utah. He said, "We got unfinished business. We got to come back and we got to finish this business." They had lost in the first round. Then he came back and they lost in the first round again. And then he asked for a trade right after they declared Paul George Day in Oklahoma City. A year later, he wants to be traded. So he did that talking. Then he goes to LA and he's like, yeah, it's about more than basketball. I want to be with my guy, playing LA. And everyone's talking him up as a championship contender. The Clippers are acting like they're champions already, haven't won a championship yet. Blow a 3-1 lead. After the bad shot thing against Damian Lillard, he said that too. Now he's in LA with the Clippers. He talked shit to Damian Lillard after that game, said, you going home this year, you're going to Cancun, him and Pat Beverly. Now what do? Now they go choke up a 3-1 lead to Jamal Murray and the Denver Nuggets. Who was guarding Jamal Murray? That's the only question I got. Now, as far as their bigs on the Clippers, Jokic's been eating their lunch for the last 4 games straight. He's been eating those guys' lunch. They're slow on the rotations. Jokic is hitting threes. He's playing over the top of those guys. He was just eating them alive. All the Clippers' big men were getting eaten up. Zubac is not a good player. He's a big body, but he is not good. Montrezl Harrell is a great player, but he's very undersized for the power forward or center position. So that small ball shit works, except when you're going against somebody big. Jokic is actually big. Montrez couldn't handle him, and Jokic was eating their lunch. He ate the Clippers' lunch for the last 3 or 4 games of that series. Jamal Murray did as well. I understand Jokic doing it because the Clippers don't have any bigs. But I don't understand Jamal Murray eating their lunch when you got Paul George, playoff P, Kawhi Leonard, who was supposedly supposed to be the best player in the NBA, according to some of y'all, not according to me. Pat Beverly, who his main thing is defense, locking up. Where were these guys? I don't know. So what are the Clippers going to do this upcoming season? Look, both Kawhi and Paul George only got 2-year contracts. Essentially, they're 2-year contracts. They got opt-out clauses, but they're 2-year contracts. So after this next season, both of those guys can opt out. This whole thing might be over that quick. So the Clippers got to figure out something. I don't know what they might run it back. I hate when teams run it back when they have obvious holes. They never figured out what to do with Denver in these last 3 games of this series. They're double teaming Jokic, who's the best passer this side of LeBron James. Don't double team a guy who's a great passer because he's always going to find an open man. All right, that's exactly what you don't do. But that's what they did. But if they played him one-on-one, he just scored on him. So they had no answers. So they need a different roster because they're going to face Jokic again. They got to go through him to win. So anyway, all that being said, that's what we got to say about the Western Conference losers thus far. Now we got the Western Conference Finals. LA Lakers against the Denver Nuggets. First of all, the LA Lakers. I made a video. I'm recording this on September the 16th, 2020. Exactly 1 year ago. I made a video saying LeBron James is still the best player in the NBA. Nothing has changed. The reason why I said LeBron was still the best player, even though the Lakers had just missed the playoffs after LeBron claimed he was in quote-unquote playoff mode in the regular season, then they went and lost 5 games in a row. Nobody has taken the title. So LeBron was the last guy who was undisputably the best player in the league. Nobody has taken that title since. I couldn't give it to KD because even though he beat LeBron, he had to join the team that was already a juggernaut to do it. He couldn't do it on the team that was built around him, which is OKC. I couldn't give it to Giannis because even though he had won the MVP, had a dominant regular season, he went against another guy who was in that conversation, Kawhi, and he got outplayed. So I couldn't give it to him. I didn't give it to Kawhi because even though he went to a team that team was semi-contender, he went on it and pushed it over the top and won the championship. I still didn't give it to Kawhi because he sat out a lot of games. He sat out 20 plus games even though he was not injured. And then he went and outplayed guys who had played all 82, who had played the whole season. I just didn't think that was fair. You can't play 60% of the games or 75% of the games, then go against somebody who played 100% and then beat them and say, well, I'm better. No, you didn't do the same things that they did. If you're going to be the best player in the league means every night. That means you show up every night and you deliver every game, not just the games where you feel like it. It ain't no rest. None of that. What was it? What were they calling it? Load management? No. You can't be the best player in the league and be doing load management. All right, Kobe didn't do load management. Michael Jordan ain't doing load management. And LeBron recently has stopped doing load management, even though he was doing it a few years ago, but now he's saying he would never do it when he was absolutely doing it even before it became a popular thing. But anyway, nobody's taking the title from LeBron. So he is still the best player in the league. And no matter what happens in this Final Four, he'll still be the best player because nobody else who's in that conversation, Giannis, James Harden, if you want to say, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Kawhi, all of them have already been eliminated. There's nobody else in the conversation. I guess maybe Jokic you might want to put in the conversation. I don't think Jokic has been dominant long enough for us to be like, damn, Jokic. He's just dominating every night. I've never said that about Jokic. He's been good every night. Has he been dominating every night? I would say no. So even if Denver wins and wins the championship, he can't take that title from LeBron because you got to do it for a whole season. Again, let me be clear to everyone. You want to call yourself the best player in the league, you got to do it for the whole season, the regular season and the playoffs. You can't be sitting out games when you're healthy, because if you're the best player in the league, people come to the game to see you. They turn on the game to see you because you're the best player. You can't sit out if you're not injured. You got to do it every game. You got to be dominant in such a way that even if I wasn't watching your game, I hear about it. Like, damn, yo, what's the name? He been killing every single game. You hear that about LeBron. You hear that about Giannis. Even Kawhi. No, we can't even say that about Kawhi because he ain't did it yet. He has not had a whole season where he just dominated. Even this past season, he didn't do it. So, no, I can't give it to him. And who else? James Harden's dominant, but then he loses when he goes up against guys who he's supposed to be better than. He keeps losing. So I can't give it to James Harden. Who else is there? Who else is in this conversation? That's pretty much it. Steph Curry has done it. And Steph Curry's on a team where there's been a lot of stars on his team with him. I can understand the Steph Curry argument, but I cannot understand Steph Curry. You can't say Steph Curry's better than LeBron James. I just can't. I can't even go there. So all that being said, LeBron's still the best player in the league no matter what happens in this series upcoming. I am predicting in this series, I'm predicting the Lakers are going to win. But the matchups are not ideal for the Lakers. That's the best way I can say it. This is not an ideal matchup for the Lakers because even though you have Anthony Davis, who is going to be guarding Jokic, because first of all, I was listening to Bill Simmons today, and they were like, well, since Jokic is on Denver, then the Lakers might be playing JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard. No. Frank Vogel, do not press go. Do not collect $200. Do not put JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard in the game at all for this entire series. Neither one of them should be playing. They didn't play in the Houston series. To keep them on the bench for this series. Let them do their little celebrations when somebody gets a dunk or makes a three. That's the only time they should be on camera. All right, they should not be playing in the game. No JaVale McGee, no Dwight Howard. Who's going to guard Jokic? Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, you're a superstar. All right, you're one of the best players in the league. All right, LeBron said, I'm going to defer to Anthony Davis. Okay, Anthony Davis, this is your chance. All right, dominating is not just about what you do on offense. It's about what you do on defense. Jokic is the best player on the Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray has great games, yes. Jokic is the best player on the Denver Nuggets. All right, I don't know if anybody's confused about that. He's the best player. Anthony Davis, guard him. He should be guarding him from the beginning of the game. He should guard him every minute Jokic is on the court. Anthony Davis needs to be on the court. If Jokic got the ball, Anthony Davis needs to be guarding him, and that's what it is, period. No, the Clippers didn't have anybody Anthony Davis' size and ability. The Lakers got him. AD on Jokic. Every minute that JaVale or Dwight Howard is playing is a loss for the Lakers. Do not do that. All right, and they'll probably try it, and they're going to realize it's not working. And Frank Vogel's a good coach, and I think he is. They will. That'll be dead after game 2. There shouldn't be no more than 2 games before we never see JaVale or Dwight Howard again. Now, Jamal Murray on the Denver Nuggets. The Lakers don't have anybody to guard him. All right, Rajon Rondo used to be a great defender. He's a little bit older now, and he's not that great of a defender anymore. I don't see him guarding Jamal Murray. Alex Caruso, he's young enough. Does he have the zip to guard Jamal Murray? Not really, but he's going to try. He's going to get his chance. Who else the Lakers got? Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. We're not even having that conversation. Who else is a guard on the Lakers? I don't even know. Who else the Lakers got? Avery Bradley would be a great defender on Jamal Murray, but Avery Bradley opted out of the bubble. So if the Lakers win a championship, does he get a ring? That's an interesting question. Avery Bradley opted out of the bubble. Maybe he can come back. They need him to come back and play them. They need Avery Bradley right now. I don't know who's going to guard Jamal Murray, which means Jamal Murray is good for at least 2 40-point games in this series. Because first of all, because he's Jamal Murray. Second of all, because the Lakers do not have any good guards to guard him, which means, hey, LeBron, hey, Mr. Best Player in the league, LeBron, you need to be guarding Jamal Murray. All right, when it comes down to stretch, the last 8 minutes of games in this series, this is the Western Conference Finals, so every game counts. I don't care if it's game 1 or game 7. Down the stretch, given the Lakers roster right now, LeBron needs to be guarding Jamal Murray, not Jeremy Grant, not Paul Millsap, not what's the dude, Gary Harris, not Monty Morris, not who else gets in the game for Denver, not Michael Porter Jr. LeBron needs to be guarding Jamal Murray. Why? Because he is the other best player on the Lakers. AD got to get Jokic. LeBron got to get Jamal Murray. If LeBron does not guard Jamal Murray's going to go off more than he would. He might go off on LeBron. He's going to go off even more on somebody else, and it's going to cost the Lakers a game in this series. And we see that Denver has confidence right now. They're rolling right now. They just beat a team that nobody thought they was going to, not nobody, but It looked like they were about to lose to Utah. They beat Utah. Nobody thought they would beat the Clippers. They beat the Clippers. Now they're going against the Lakers. Look, they have nothing to lose. Denver's playing with found money right now. They have nothing to lose. They are playing loose and free. They've already proved something. Even if they lose in this series, they've already proved, hey, we're a team you need to be paying attention to for this upcoming season. Jamal Murray has had a coming out party showing what he can do. Jokic has been dominant. Listen, they have nothing to lose. They're playing fast and free. The Lakers are supposed to be title contenders. They're not going to be shook up because they got a guy, LeBron, who's been in every situation in the league since he's been in it. So they ain't going to be shook up. But they're playing against a team that's loose. And LeBron's going to have to neutralize Jamal Murray like early and often. If he doesn't do that, Denver has a chance in this series. And if AD is not sticking Jokic, I got a problem with Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, you watching this, guard Jokic. All right, you supposed to be one of the top 10 players in the league. Jokic is one of the top 10. Y'all the same size. I don't want to hear no bullshit about I'm not a center. I don't want to see Dwight Howard take his warm-ups off. I don't want to see JaVale McGee take his warm-ups off. It should be you the whole game. All right, fuck them. They shouldn't be playing at all. Have I made that clear? Now, on the other side of the ball, Jokic cannot guard Anthony Davis. So Anthony Davis should dominate this series. Jokic can't guard Anthony Davis. So Anthony Davis should be getting 25s and 30s and 15 rebounds in this series. He should have a game like that. He should have at least 3 of those games in this series. I don't care how many games the series is. He should have at least 3 of them. LeBron James, Denver has bodies to throw at LeBron. They got Jeremy Grant. I guess you can maybe try Millsap sometimes. You got Michael Porter Jr., who ain't going to be able to do nothing because he's not a great defender. His defensive IQ has not been great. And who else they got? Gary Harris. You're probably not even going to put him on. He's too small. LeBron should be having 30 15s in this series as well. Anthony Davis and LeBron should both be putting up 30 and 15s in this series. They should be putting up Kobe Shaq-like stat lines in this series because Denver does not have anybody who can guard LeBron. They got people who can try on LeBron. They got bodies for LeBron. They have nothing for Anthony Davis. Absolutely nothing. So AD, this is it. All right, you wanted to go to another team. You were on the Pelicans. They built the team around you. You didn't like it. You left. Okay, now here you are on the biggest stage you ever been on, being guarded by a guy who cannot guard you on a team that ain't got nobody who can guard you. I don't care if LeBron on the team. This is Anthony Davis' time to step up and dominate. If he's dominant, he needs to step up and dominate now. Everybody's watching. LeBron's going to do LeBron things. All right, we already know what LeBron's going to do. That's why he's the best player in the league. We know he's going to have dominant stat lines. We know he's going to show up because this is what the best player in the world does. Ain't no doubt about it. Doesn't mean he can't have an off game. But he's still going to do dominant things because that's why he's the best. So my pick in this series, I'm going to go with LA Lakers to win this series. Let's see how many games I think this is going to go. I say the Lakers in 6. I'm going to say the Lakers in 6. That's what I want to happen. But I would not be surprised at all if it goes 7 because the Lakers, first of all, make the mistake of putting Dwight or JaVale in the game. Have I said that enough? Second, AD does not dominate whoever's guarding him, but he should, but he might not. And third, Jamal Murray might just catch on fire and drop 50 a couple times. Those are 3 reasons why I might go 7. And I'm not saying that Denver does not have a chance to win. If it goes 7, Denver can win. Denver can absolutely win this series if those 3 things that I already said. Jamal Murray catching fire, Anthony Davis not guarding Jokic, and Anthony Davis not dominating on offense. So that's that. This is the Anthony Davis series. This ain't the Jamal Murray. This ain't the LeBron. This ain't Jokic. This is the Anthony Davis series. He needs to shut down that other dude and dominate. Have I said that often enough? Let me stop talking. That's that. That's what I think. Y'all know what to do with your comments. Post them down there. Let's get to it. Western Conference Finals. We in stay up late mode now, y'all. Work on your game. Dre all day.